Okay, so if you're looking at the screen right now, it's no, I haven't pimped my Linux or themed out a KDE Neon desktop. It's actually Windows 10. So what we're going to do is I've just installed this, gone through the screenshots and small videos and so forth. So we're going to continue on to have a look at what we can do to set up a dual boot with a Linux distro. In this case it will be KDE Neon. So first of all, what we need to do is find our control panel. I switched it from category to large icons or small, doesn't matter. I just know where I'm navigating with that particular view. Now we need to go to Power Options, and my friend Zeb chimed into one of my videos the other day in the comments and recommended that we choose what the power button does. I think it was, yes, I think it's that one. Okay, now what we need to do is change the settings that are currently available and turn on fast boot recommended, uncheck that and save changes. So apparently that will do something to your boot, could mess your boot up. So I'm pretty sure that's the one, hope it's the one. So I'm sure if it's not, Zeb will let me know. So now what we need to do is right click the menu, go to Disk Management. So now what you have is your C drive, and you got your partitions here, a few basic boot partitions there and so forth. They're all in megabytes, but the one we're interested in is the C drive, which is the main drive of Windows 10, and we want to right click on that and we want to go to Shrink Volume. So it's given us an option here of 230, what is it? 237 gig. We can change it to 475 gig. So you can make this, that's the amount of space it's given you. Now for Linux, 50 gig is more than enough. You can run it on 20, but if you want to make it more, you can. For this one, I normally run mine on 50 because we're only going to be running, we really need to leave some spare space. Well, actually what we could do is we need to make it 50. Let's make it 50. Total size left is that much, so let's shrink that. So what we have now is a 50 gig unallocated drive there, or partition. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shrink the volume again. Now you're still going to have a fair bit of space on your C drive for your Windows. So what you could probably do here is maybe give this 150 gig for data. So that could be your data share between Windows and Linux. Now I think we can set that up as NTFS, I'm pretty sure. Might leave that for now. We can experiment with that after. But we'll just put that partition there anyway. It just gives us the availability of that partition. But what we're going to do is definitely we're going to oh no, what's it done? It's actually okay, so it's made it the 195. That's all right, we'll take some out of that for the, so it's made it one full disk. Fine, that's all right. So we can put our Linux distro on one partition. We can create the other partition with gparted. So that's the shrinking of the volume done. Now the next step will be is to install KDE Neon in this scenario. So I'll see you on the live disk of KDE Neon. Okay, so I'm in KDE Neon for the second time. The first recording, the OBS decided to put the settings down to really low, so it's watchable but not very good quality. So I've gone into Neon again, and we're going to go back to where we started. So that's the plan here. So I'm not going to tick these two because I won't be keeping this install, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm just trying to demonstrate the install. Normally I would tick those two, but not on this occasion. Okay, we're going to go for a manual install. Right. Okay, so what we have here is, as you'll see, I've got SDA 6, 7 and 8. So what I'm going to do is delete these three. That's a 51 gig, 8 gig swap. And that's my 512 boot file, or boot partition, 512 megabyte. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got free space of 209. Now that's exactly what it was. This is exactly how it looked when I booted in the first time. This is the partition we created in Windows 10, and it was exactly like this. So I might even include this part of the video on the first video, just so there's no confusion. This video's just got more clarity. So this is what it would have looked like if the partitions weren't created. So what I do is we just a moment, we click on that and we change. Oh, maybe we don't. Oh, we add, sorry, add ext4. So that's going to be 51200, which will make it exactly 50 gig, and mount point root. Okay, so that's just 50 times 1024. Okay. So go back to our free space, we click on that, and I'm going to make a swap partition, which is 8192, which makes it 8 gig exactly. So this will be swap area. Okay. Okay, so we've got our swap, and then we're going to click on that and create a 512 megabyte FAT32 file system. Now this one in my first video had me confused because I've only done UEFI with pretty much Linux. So normally it comes up with a UEFI mount point, but this one's just DOS. So that actually worked. So I've created DOS file there. I've actually got it properly booting with Windows and KDE Neon already. I might just include this bit in it just so you can see what was happening. Okay, so we've got our FAT32 DOS. Free space here. So what I was saying in the first video is this free space here. Later on we could probably make that an NTFS and share it between Linux and Windows. We'll see what we can do with that. So we're going to install to this one here. Oh, it should do that anyway. Okay, and we're going to install it to this one here, SDA8, which is our FAT32 boot partition. So SDA8. Install now. Continue that. Okay, Perth, Australia. English, US. Okay, my name. So this install is complete. So that's my second install. Hopefully this one will reboot, and maybe we'll revisit the partition that's spare, so we can maybe do an NTFS or a ext4 partition or something. So anyway, I have another video when I booted in the first time, so I may stick with that or maybe make a new one. We'll see how we go. So I'm going to do a manual install. Now we've got certain Windows spaces on here. The NTFS is Windows, so we have free space. So the one that we made up was 190 something, so it's got to be this one here. So this is our free space here. So we're going to make that 50 gig. So I'll make it 51,200 to make it exactly 50 gigs. So that's 50 times 1024. The mount point will be root. Okay. So I'm going to make an 8 gig 8192. I'm going to make that swap area. Okay, now I've got 150 gig free space there. Now the other thing I'm going to do is make 512 megabyte FAT32 okay, we'll make it a DOS. So I've made a FAT32. I don't know whether that should be Windows or DOS. Normally I select UEFI. I'm sure I booted under UEFI, but I'm not sure. Every computer is different. So I'm really not sure what's going on there. I don't know whether it should be a Windows or a UEFI. We'll make it a DOS for now. But I'm not sure if that's correct, so we'll try it anyway. I'm not sure if this is going to work. So we'll install now and see how we go. Okay, so that's finished, but I have a feeling that that may not work, because I should have had a UEFI there, the partition for booting, and I don't think the Neon installer manages to do that. That's why it wasn't available for choice. So instead of, if I have to reboot this and it doesn't work, then I have to reinstall OBS and everything on the live disk again. So maybe I'll give it a try, see whether it boots or not. and then I'll have to be in here again and maybe try KDE Partition. I think might be my best bet. So we'll see how we go. So we've booted into our KDE Neon install. So hopefully maybe the DOS selection was correct. I think just running computers is just one lifelong learning curve, because sometimes things just don't seem to be the same all the time. They change and they're different all the time. So I haven't booted into Windows yet. So this one's up and running. 460 packages to update. So I'm going to now boot out, log out of here, restart, and see if I can boot into Windows. So we've managed to boot into Windows 10. So the boot was successful. Just looking back on my history, and I don't think I've actually dual booted Linux with Windows 10 under a UEFI. So the choice of DOS or Windows on the boot partition, the 512 megabyte boot partition, was a bit confusing. It probably because Windows has the UEFI anyway. So I just went for DOS and it worked out. So that's a bit of experience for me too, because I haven't really done that before. So I've done plenty of dual booting, but just not under UEFI with Linux and Windows. So it's worked out for the best, and everything's working a-okay. So I hope you found this video informative, and thank you for watching.